Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. Welcome to our group tonight. Tonight, we've been flexing through so many different kinds of things recently, and I'm kind of getting back to normal here in terms of doing the astrology part of it. I'm going to be doing in the near future. The difference in the show will be I'm going to be having a lot of guests on because I really think it's important that you all get to see many different types of new age directions because a lot of people are looking to try this, try that. And not everybody's doing astrology. Astrology will always serve you as a very good basis for whatever you're doing. And so even if you go off into massage or you go off into mediumship, whatever, it's a good basis for you. Tonight, I have written down about 13 names of people, places that are in the news because the news is just so heavy. I'm going to try to explain to you why it's so heavy, why some of these weird people are so weird, why some of this dangerous people are so dangerous. I'm going to show you and pinpoint you right to where the story is that I think. Now, it's a very complex subject going through these different folks. You saw the picture on the advertisement for the show. I'm going to go through a lot of different folks. There's Shelby. She's going to keep an eye on us in the background behind Linda. And we're going to get started and jump in to do all these different charts. And we're going to start out with the lesser critical ones and get towards the critical ones, which are at the end. But we'll just take a look here. So I'm starting off with Joe Manchin's chart. And the reason why is I wanted to know what made him tick, especially when the Democratic Party thought they had the Senate. And they thought they had over 50 votes. And all of a sudden you find Mr. Manchin, a Democrat, who's not voting with them. Doesn't that make you wonder? So I want to show you some reasons why. This is a very delicate type of astrology, and I'll show you why. Mr. Manchin's chart, the Democratic senator from my home state of West Virginia. And we'll start with him. And what I want to show you is when I pulled up his chart, and this is with a noon birth time, so we don't know his birth time. When I have to see that it's on your screen. It's not on yours. It's on mine. Okay. There's his chart. Okay. I had to go through this to find out why is this man siding with the GOP when he's got a clear vote going through with the Democrats. And I have to take a look. Now, you have to remember here, this is very important, and I get a lot of flack from other astrologers because of this. A chart does not tell you how a person's going to be. A chart is a chart of energies. And it's up to this person to use them how he or she wishes. In other words, I have charts of people with 6 planets in Leo, 7 planets in Leo, and they're not arrogant. Well, I learned my lesson by doing these. This is a guy with four planets in Leo, and his sun is in Virgo. And Virgo is usually not arrogant, but it's my contention that he probably is. Okay, so what I think is with this guy's chart is very simple. With the sun in Virgo and 4 planets in Leo, first of all, when you have somebody like this, there ain't no way that you can tell this person that he's ever wrong. You just can't do it because this guy is never wrong. But my point is this. You've got a great big bucket pattern pointing to the planet Eris. And tonight, I'm going to push Eris even further than I did before. And people are starting to pick up on Eris. They're just starting to, and it's amazing that they haven't. But they've been decoyed by the Pluto return. They've been decoyed by Trump's chart, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what they've thought, they've ascribed a lot of things in the past several years, past 10 years, to Pluto, and it hasn't been Pluto. It's been Pluto and Eris combined. But this took me a long time to get convinced. So we'll keep an eye on it. What am I saying here? I'm just going to come out and tell you what I think with Mr. Manchin. I think Mr. Manchin has a very fat, I have no reason to believe this. I think he has a very fat bank account somewhere in Switzerland. Okay? I think he's being bought off by the Republican Party to cast votes to hurt the GOPs. I don't know, but his chart is in sync with that. I'm not saying it's astrological, so you can disagree with me, but I think that with all the Leo planets in him, I think he's been promised a position that's very high if he gives up certain votes. That's what I think. Now, everybody in the world can disagree with me, and that's okay. That's my opinion. Now, continuing on with newsmakers, I want to show you the chart of Marjorie Taylor Greene, the blonde-haired woman. She's a senator, very outspoken, extremely conservative, very anti-Biden. With a noon chart and his sun at 0 Virgo, it won't be in Leo too because of the number of hours that it had to travel. So let's go back and make sure. Thank you for that note. In Manchin's chart, you see the fact that his sun is at 040. So this is a guarantee that his sun is in Virgo because the most he could be, his sun would have to be 029 or less for him to be possibly sun in Leo, but he's enough into Virgo that it's guaranteed. All right, let's go on to the next chart, which is Marjorie Taylor Greene. All right, in her chart, this is a really intriguing chart. If you don't know much about her, she's extremely outspoken. She's real pro-Trump. She's very anti-democratic. She's very outspoken. And when you're outspoken, you've got to have a lot of Taurus in you. You got to have Taurus energy to keep your ability to hold your ground, to stand your ground. Well, here she's a Gemini. Okay. Now, if you know anything about Geminis, Gemini women especially, a lot of times, one of the things that's very common about Geminis is they will take a position, and Gemini is not a sign to take a position. They're not made to take a position. They know lots of things, but they won't take one. And what are Geminis known for? They're known for being extremely evasive. Now, you put this sun opposite Neptune. Now tell me how evasive she is. Okay? Maybe the queen of. You've got the very attack-oriented Venus in Aries, Chiron in Aries, Eris in Aries. So she's very strong, stating her opinion, and those three are all opposite Uranus. When you got three planets opposite Uranus, you got a stinger on top of your stinger on top of the stinger. Now you got a T-square to Mars. So you've got a woman that's attack-oriented. She's ready to go. She's ready to attack. She's ready to hold her ground. And in my opinion, when you have a lot of Gemini energy like this, you have to really question, because some Geminis are very deep and very solid, but a lot of them don't have their facts straight. And they use a little bit of knowledge to try to sell you on bigger things. So you have to be very careful with this woman. Now let's go back to this chart because it's very telling. All right. So you got this tremendously aggressive three planets in Aries, opposite Uranus, T-squared over to Mars. Even though the Mars is in Cancer, it's still Mars, okay? And where has Pluto been with Eris the past couple years? Right here. Pluto's been at 22, 23. See? Pluto has been 22, 23. Now it's at 29. Eris is at 23. So 23 at 23, and there's 22. So you see how the Mars has been hit? She's the spokesperson for this crazy, obnoxious type of energy. Now, this kind of woman that's so volatile doesn't not need she doesn't need a lot of matches to get a fire going. And you got a bonfire going over here with Pluto sitting here and Eris sitting here. And look at the pressure that it put on that Mars. And that's why she's, quote, popular, because she, quote, says it like it is. Well, maybe she says it like it isn't, but she seems to say it like it is. But this is a dangerous woman. This is a very, very dangerous woman, because we have to see if she really is based in fact. Now look deeper in this. It's just incredible. Look at the Pluto is square to Saturn in Cancer. Okay, Saturn at 4, Pluto at 4. Pluto at 4, Saturn at 4. Okay, you got 2 more unyielding planets. They're not going to give up. They're not going to yield their position. And you got a moon in Leo. Okay? Now, with this one, there's a possibility, very slim, that the moon could have gone into Virgo that day, but she would have to be born like 11:30 at night for that to happen. And most probabilities her moon is in Leo. Then you say to yourself, does this person act like a moon in Virgo, or does it act like a moon in Leo? And then there's no more argument. Now, I found this to be an astounding chart. With the Saturn in Cancer, when you start to track people who are pro-Trump, the couple things they have in common, they have a lot of Saturn, they have a lot of Capricorn, they have a lot of Cancer. That's what they got. Now, I'm going to tell you this story. I've done surveys through the zodiac for years. I've been doing this a long time. People's favorite signs in the zodiac, if you just ask a poll, people's favorite signs of the zodiac are Gemini and Libra. It's shocked me, all this stuff, but this is what I found out. Why? Because Geminis are very talkative, very friendly, talk about a lot of different subjects. Libra is very friendly, very friendly, very tactful. So it's very understandable why they're 2 of the favorite signs. When you do that same survey, the 2 unfavorite signs of the zodiac are Capricorn and Cancer. Now, I know plenty of good people on all 4 signs. So it's not my position, but I'm going to tell you why I think it is. When Cancer and Capricorn, they're not as outgoing. They're more stay to themselves, keep their cards close to their vest. Okay. And while Gemini and Libra is much more outgoing in general. But when you're tracking down these people who have been embarrassing themselves for years with Trump, they've almost all got Cancer, Capricorn, Saturn, Cancer, Capricorn, the moon. And that's because Saturn and Capricorn wants things to be like the old days. The old days are better. What's wrong with these new folks? What the hell are they trying to do this? What's this left up to? What's this left up to? Be careful how you say things. So you see this just plethora of this stuff in their chart. She's the poster woman for this. She's got Pluto square to Saturn, which is in Cancer. So you can talk all day to this woman, and she's not going to listen to you because she's absolutely convinced of her own truth, and that's it. She's been She's been censored several times. She's been censored at least once, I know, in the Senate. Anyhow, wanted to get these 2 off my chest first. Now we're going to go into some really interesting. Now we're opening up the can tonight. You're going to see the GOP next. And I'm going to show you why these things have been going on. And if you've been paying attention, as a matter of fact, last night I told Liza, I'm going to do a show on what I've been telling people for 20 years. I'm going to show a part of a document I wrote 20 years ago, part of a document I wrote 17 years ago, part of a document I wrote 12 years ago. And you're going to see where all these things were warned about. You can ask Linda, because Linda knows this is true, because she's been here reading them all. Okay? Not that I'm saying, hey, I know it all, or I told you so, but to show you how powerful astrology is and to give you even more reason now to listen to what's going on. Because most of the things I was complaining and warning about 20 years ago haven't changed a bit. Now, being fair, I am seeing a lot of good things happening. There are a lot of exciting, new, progressive, holding hands, humane efforts going on. You can see it in the news. But as you can tell, we're in a lot of trouble. And I told you that it's happening right. It happened all right when we said during the USA's Pluto return. Within days it was, during the Pluto return. Now, you got to be very astute. Some of these things are happening because of the Pluto return. Some things aren't. Let's go to the GOP's chart. The GOP's chart, I'm pretty certain of, and many people use it. The Democratic chart, I've got it, and it's really based upon a letter that Jefferson wrote. So we're really not sure if the Democratic chart is accurate or not. These charts have to prove the test of time. But I'm going to show you what I got. I have much more faith that the GOP's chart is accurate. Now, here is the GOP's chart, which was started in a meeting that they had in a place called Jackson, Michigan. Was the party started by Lincoln. This is the chart of the GOP. There is no birth time because we can very seldom get a birth time, but they are born on July 6th of 1854. So this is a chart with the sun on the ascendant. I don't like this chart. I'm going to change this. Let me change this chart. Okay, there's a Republican. I'm going to move it to a noon chart. Hold on. Okay. There we go. That will be much more meaningful to us. Let's start working. I get worked up. I got to turn the fan on. Could you check it for me? I don't know what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's not,
turn it on.
it's not starting. Okay. Now, the thing is critical about the GOP's chart. The sun is in Cancer because they're born almost on the USA's birthday, opposite Jupiter in Capricorn, opposite Chiron in Capricorn, meaning that they are industrious, clever. Hold on, please. Okay. Now, you have a Cancer country. This is a Cancer party with a moon in Scorpio. Now, just that alone, when you have a Cancer entity with a moon in Scorpio, and I know many people that have it, and I know some of my favorite people in the world have it, so they can be wonderful. They can also be vicious. One of the things not said enough here and in other shows is how Cancer is not just this wussy sign. It's not just this timid sign. Cancer is also extremely tenacious. They can fight. They can be really, really tough. Now, you go ahead and look at their moon placement, and when the moon is in Scorpio, you've got somebody who can be extremely tenacious. Okay, so that's not enough yet, but we see what is their mastery? Their mastery is to make the United States citizens scared. Their masters are scaring the public about their security. They were known as the party of the family. That certainly has changed. Let's go deeper. Okay, you got Saturn next to Venus in Gemini, a very odd combination of two planets that don't sit well together in Gemini. This is kind of a fickleness. Okay, it's kind of a fickleness. It's not very steady. You've got a pretty strong Mars and Virgo, and that means they plan things out and they do it by plan. And I think it's pretty evident. They're pretty obvious when they do that. Now, you've got Neptune in Pisces, which is very Piscean, square to this Venus and Saturn. And I'm telling you what that means in the long run. This is how they've been managing to sell the people with smoke and mirrors. With the Neptune square to Venus and Saturn. This could have been used in a different way. Do you see the Republican GOP being gentle and caring to the public and caring about people's medicine and health? I don't. I think they fight it every inch of the way. This is very symbolic of this kind of underhandedness. Okay? Now, what have we seen recently out of this party? What have we seen? All right. Pluto has been at 23, so it wasn't that long ago. Pluto was back here opposing the sun, while it was opposing the sun in the USA's chart, which means that this chart was going through an identity crisis at the same time that the United States was going through one. We've talked a lot about the United States going through an identity crisis, and that happens when your sun is hit by the big planets. Because your sun is your identity. Okay, what else do we see? I kept writing for years and years and years, and I kept warning everybody about 2018. In 2000, I wrote about it. 2010, I wrote about it. In 2018, I warned everybody that Neptune would get to 18 degrees. Let me get this straight here. Let me get this straight. What we saw in 2018, and I told you about this for years, is that in 2018, Neptune had gone around and it returned. And when the Neptune return happened, just like we're seeing the Pluto return in the United States chart, the Neptune happened in the Republicans chart. Now, when the Neptune return happens in your chart, if you're 164 years old, or a business is 164 years old, or Neptune square Neptune, or Neptune opposite Neptune, when you get the major planet affecting itself, what happens is, just like I told you last week, with the Pluto return, is similar to investing a lot of money. Here, the teenagers are in the house. I give them tons of money, and I come back 250 years later on the Pluto return to see how they've spent their money. With Neptune, is I gave them a lot of spiritual direction. I gave them a lot of Bibles, a lot of spiritual material. I gave them a lot of spiritual upbringing. And I came back 164 years later to see how they have spent their spiritual money. And I kept warning everybody. And as the Neptune return got closer and closer, we had the weapons of mass destruction, fakery, all that going on. We had all the lies and everything going on, the smoke and the mirrors that went on 2010, 11, 12, all the way to 18. What happened in 18? They crashed. This is the peak of Trump. He's the epitome of a false leader, a phony leader who's lying to the public. This didn't have to happen. That's not what Neptune does. But what Neptune does is it makes you naked in front of God so he can see what you're really worth spiritually. And I kept telling everybody for years that the GOP was going to go through a spiritual bankruptcy. They had nothing left. So what happened? You get the picture of the Wicked Witch going down through the stage there with the water, and oh, I'm melting and I'm melting. That's what you get with Neptune when it returns. When Neptune does something and it doesn't blast it, it doesn't break it in pieces, it dissolves like an acid, very quietly, a lot of smoke. That's what happened in 2018. These big planets don't hit 1 week, 2 weeks. They go on for 10 years on either side. So we're in the midst of that still. So what have the GOP done? Try to figure out, well, we got nothing left, but here comes this boat coming by called Trump. We may as well hitch ourselves to that wagon, which they did. And how many of them were interviewed off camera and said they didn't believe in what they were saying, but said they had to say what they had to say to keep the party line? So you all know about that junk, and you can see why. Now, this is not astrologically proven. This party could have turned themselves around. 2001, 2010, all the way to 2018, they had the option to get straight with people, to start loving people, to start being honest with the public and other countries. That's what the planets are about. You don't fake out the planets. Neptune's about loving other people. It's about inclusion, including everybody. It's Neptune. Not excluding everybody, especially blacks. Not taking their voting rights away, helping them to vote. So you see the story. Tremendous, tremendous deception by the GOP from Neptune. That's what they chose. Now, I saw something last year that about flipped me out. I couldn't believe it. And I looked at the chart once again. And I really don't care what kind of mail I get from this, because I'm speaking what's happening. I'm saying what's true, because people know what's true. Okay, so we go a little further to 2018. What do we see? We see Uranus return. Uranus return 2001, 2022, 21, 22. Okay, a Uranus return. Okay, what is that about? These returns are a major big deal to something. You have an entity, you have a party, literally a party. You have a party smoking cigars and drinking whiskey. You have a party that has dissolved in front of you because it has no character except lying to you through the Fox phony network. Now it's going through a Uranus return. So a Uranus return is, I've granted you with freedom to do whatever you like and talent and admiration of your abilities. I'll come back 84 years later. Let's see how you've done. Well, we see how they've done. They've taken care of the 1% and to hell with the other 99%. So I ask you this. You have a Neptune that returned after 164 years and just totally destroyed this party down to nothing. There's nothing there. There's no substance. Now, within 2 years, 3 years, you put on top of that a Uranus return. Who's going to bring you to life when you're sitting there in a dissolved puddle? How are you going to come to life when you're in a watery puddle? What's going to bring you to life? Well, we said with Uranus here, you're either going to come up to life, which is just impossible. It's not even possible. Or you're going to get even more mutated, or you're going to get even weirder, because Uranus is going to do something. Uranus is very inventive. This is the time when the party, if the party had started to become spiritually again and started to find its real soul, Uranus could have come along in the last couple of years and they could have reborn themselves, renewed themselves. It could have been great. But now what you're getting is a permutation upon a permutation upon a different kind of twistedness. It's just becoming crazy. And now, what do you have now? You have a party that is trying to come to life by lying to everybody through the internet, okay? Through the internet, different shows and different social networks. And what do you have? There's no hope of this party now. There's no hope at all for this party to come back around and be anything like its original intentions were. So it's going to take this party years and years and years and years to rebound from these kind of pressures. They could have done it, but they didn't do it. Now, I'm going to show you the Democratic chart. And it's no picnic either. It's a chart that I'm not real convinced of because I don't have a lot of proof of its birth date and birth time, but it's interesting to look at anyway. So let's look at the Democratic chart. This is based upon a letter written by Jefferson when he wanted to separate into the Democratic Party. So I don't know. A lot of these parties have multiple birthdays because of different opinions. So astrologers argue over these things. Here you see the Democratic Party is a Taurus party with a moon in Libra, with the moon right next to Aquarius. Okay, in the Democratic chart, we see the sun in Taurus, the moon in Aquarius. So that's a double statement of tremendous stubbornness, which can be very good. Because the one thing I found out through studying politics, we won't believe this, but the number one energy that you have to see with people who last it out in politics are Taurus planets. The Taurus planets don't give them the brilliance and the high-mindedness of Jupiter or of a Uranus for the cause and idealism, but it gives them the stamina to stick with all the blows that you have to take. So we see Pelosi's chart has a lot of Taurus in it. We see McConnell's chart's got a lot of Taurus in it. And that's why those two in particular last, because they got so much Taurus. So when you add a moon in Aquarius, let alone a moon next to Pluto, this may as well become a moon in Scorpio when it's this close. Even if this moon has gone over into Pisces, it's still conjunct Pluto. All right, what do you got here? Big T square to Eris. A whole lot of people don't have a T square to Eris because they don't put Eris on the screen. But where's it coming from? It's coming from Jupiter, Neptune, opposite Saturn, Venus. Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn, Venus. Now think about the Democrats all your life now. This chart makes some sense. Jupiter, Neptune is in Libra, is very symbolic of being very tactful, caring about people, being soft, being elegant, being non-confrontive. Okay, opposite a shyness, opposite a kind of wallflower kind of energy. So a social awkwardness, opposite this social spiritual strength. So I think you can see here that in a lot of accusations through the years, the Democrats have been targeted as being clueless. They've been targeted as being too soft. Let's look what Obama did. Let's meet him halfway. If we meet him halfway, things will work out with the GOP. We saw how well that worked out. It didn't. So this is being too soft. This is being socially awkward or socially not confident. And where's the T-square go? The T-square from all 40 planets go to Eris and Capricorn. Okay, what does that mean? Eris and Capricorn back in 1792. Eris in Capricorn is really confounding because it's all about do things the proper way, but at the same time, if it doesn't work, blow it up. You do it the proper way, but don't do it the proper way. Do it the proper way, but be the party of disruption. So it's really confused. It doesn't know what to do. This energy, they don't know how to solve it. So they try this, they try that. This is very curious. And what's really intriguing about this is what? Pluto's been sitting at 23. Pluto's been at 23, 24. Now it's at 29. It's been there the last 3-4 years sitting there, while Eris has been sitting at 23, 24, 25 of Aries. So Eris is on that point of the T-square. Pluto's on the other point. When you have a T-square, which is two planets opposite each other going to a third, any one of the points of the triangle getting hit is really massively significant. So we see the black man becoming president of the Democratic Party. We see all these tremendous ups and downs and ups and downs. This is one of the things, in case you haven't noticed this, when you have Pluto in your life, whether you have a lot of Scorpios in your life, whether you have Pluto transiting your planets, one of the things really common about Pluto is your life goes, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Now, Linda, you got Pluto rising. Give me a little nod of the head here. Has that been kind of descriptive of your life being, oh, hey, oh, hey? What do you think?
So, well, up until the point where you pointed it out to me, it was. And once you understand that, you can level it out.
Yeah, and keep in mind you're a Libra, so you're a master at leveling things out. But it is true that
there can be just massive. And I want to point out something else about Libra. That Libra energy is Libra has been one I can tell you. Although I don't suffer from this because I have so much Scorpio, they want to be liked too much.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's another aspect of
that's a weakness of the Democrats. That's no doubt.
I think.
But if they come across as we're the party of the people, and look at those old cruel GOP people, there's some truth to that. But there's a lot of debate. Anyhow, thank you.
There's a lot of that up and down, though, for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you for chipping in. Okay, now let's take a look deeper. All right. So Pluto has been all over this point in Eris. That is so significant. You can put the chart away. So this is what happens when you're an advanced reader, okay? You can start to understand when to nitpick at certain parts. The Pluto and Eris hitting this chart has been so monumental in the past several years, you don't even need to look at the chart. So what does that mean? You got to answer to Pluto as a party. You got to answer to Eris. Okay? Pluto wants you to be ballsy, strong. It can't stand indecisiveness. The Democratic chart's full of indecisiveness because it's so pressured from its spirituality to be nice to everybody. They suffer from be nice-itis. That's what they do. And then the Eris is hitting it at the same time. It's just so confusing about blow it up if it doesn't work. So you got one party that's really got both legs injured really badly and they're wobbling. And the other chart's just been devastated and there's nothing left. So that's a hell of a way to enter a Pluto return for the country. These are my 2 cents. You can argue if you want to. Now, let's go ahead on to this guy's chart called Putin. Okay, here's Mr. Putin. For him, I believe we do have a birth time. And this is a very scary, truth-yielding chart, I believe. Here he is, okay. Mr. Putin is a Libra. Mr. Putin is born 6 days before a friend of mine. Okay? And I know this friend's chart very well. And I'm going to get to that later on. This chart's very similar to this guy that I know. Libra, 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 Scorpio rising. We got a birth time of 9:30 in the morning, St. Petersburg. What sits on the midheaven? Pluto in Leo. What sits on the midheaven? Pluto in Leo. Not Pluto in Cancer, not Pluto in Taurus, Pluto in Leo. That means the throne is mine. Try to take it. Okay? This does not mean everybody with this chart born on this day is like this, but we see him using the chart incorrectly. We don't have a bucket pattern. Not really. We have a T-square. Where's the sun? The sun is opposite Eris. The sun is next to Saturn. The sun is next to Saturn, opposite Eris, with a T-square to Chiron in Capricorn. Okay, Chiron in Capricorn is very much like, if you look like I do, you'll look and see Chiron is very much a Virgo planet. So this guy has a really strong Virgo Capricorn energy. And if anybody is wise to street games, there's nobody wiser to street games, street savvy than Libras. They're just the smartest. Some of them are extremely dynamic and very competitive, the males. It all depends. You have to see the rest of the chart. This guy's dealing with Saturn, Neptune. Been telling you for months about Saturn, Neptune. He has no idea how to blend those two planets. His sun is next to Saturn. It's opposite Eris. So what do you think that's going to do to an uncertain 12th house sun? So he's got an uncertain, you may as well call this a 12th house, Sun, Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, all this 12th house stuff. He's very unsure of himself, but he acts awful damn strong. He acts awful strong with that Pluto and Leo. Don't mess with my throne. You know, it was in the Secret Service, whatever it's called, KGB. Now, give this man a moon in Gemini. Give this man a moon in Gemini. How about this? Give this man a moon in Gemini with no aspects to it. There's no aspects to the moon. There's no sextiles. There's no trine, no square, nothing. This is known as a peregrine moon, just like the word peregrine, falcon. In astrology, a peregrine planet is extremely strong just because it's unaspected. It just speaks by itself. And when you have a lunar person, get this now. I could talk for weeks on this. When you have a lunar person, a person with a really overly strong Cancer, overly strong, out of balance Cancer or Moon, what do you have? You have somebody that you have to tiptoe around. You got to tiptoe around the guy with the button. You better tiptoe around him because he might do a lot of things that you don't like. It's very dangerous. He didn't have to use the moon that way. A typical moon in Gemini person is really kind of lighthearted and giggly, kind of having fun. It's not the most stable of signs since the moon represents your emotions. It's my belief that his chart is so weak personally that he's grabbed onto external power and made it his personal power. Because remember, what did Libras do? What are Libra men focused on? What are most Libras focused on? Social success. Success in the society. Okay, so what's making him go goofy now? This is some tough stuff, but I think you're starting to see how his chart is constructed. By the way, my friend with the same chart has lost his mental faculties and is now in a mental hub. Okay, that's what's happened to him. When Neptune went over him, it was just too much for him. And I won't go into any more details about that. Putin's smart. He's shrewd. And the word I use more and more this past 6 months, Libra people are very street smart. They're just street smart. Okay? They're not spiritually smart. They're street smart. Okay? All right. So we got the Pluto, the most angular planet in the chart. Venus is 8 degrees from the ascendant. This planet is 10 degrees away. So this is really angular. It's right on it within 1 degree of the midheaven. And when Pluto is on your midheaven, it's just like adding a whole lot of Scorpio to the chart. Okay. So that's where he comes out with his need for power. And other charts that I've done for him also, I've seen that a good bit. Now, you'll notice, we're going to skip forward a little bit. Pluto right now is at 28 degrees of Capricorn. And in a couple years, in just a couple years, it's going to be square to his ascendant. Pluto is going to square his ascendant. Now, typically when Pluto squares the ascendant, what's going to happen? I'll tell you right now, some things I do know. What's going to happen is he's going to have to face a lot of this whole thing of the world standing up to him. This has just started. This is going to get ugly. This is going to get really, really ugly. And no, I cannot tell you whether to use a nuke or not. When Pluto's around, you're going to be tempted. Pluto's nuclear power, tempted. But as Pluto squares his ascendant, this is time for him to correct all of his relationships and to correct his relationships between Russia and other countries. And do you think that's going to happen? Hell no. That ain't going to happen. This guy's dangerous. He's getting more dangerous by the minute as Pluto gets closer. It's out of sign and 5 degrees away at the moment. We have a lot of watching to do. Keep our eye on this chart. Take this chart down if you're studying. October 7th of 52, 9:30 in the morning in St. Petersburg. Okay, what else do we got here? Pluto. Okay, Neptune. Neptune has been at 21 degrees. Neptune has been at 21 degrees of Pisces, which has been exactly inconjunct to his midheaven. An inconjunct is 5 signs away, 150 degrees. It's called a minor aspect, but these aspects are not so minor when they're exact. So all during this time of this exact invasion, Neptune's been square and harsh aspect to. Did you have a question, Linda? Okay. Neptune has been in harsh aspect to that Pluto. So that would translate directly and clearly into ill-advised approach to taking over the world. See, when you play the game Risk, where it's world dominance, it's a board game. The reason they call it Risk is there's a certain time in the game when you may take a risk and just invade the world and you spread your armies out and you try to take the world. But if you don't, your other armies have been left so weak, just one in each country. So what do? And that's why people were saying, what's his plan B for this guy? What's plan B? Because you have to know by now that everything that's going on externally is going on internally. This guy is falling apart as an individual, and commanding troops around him only does so much. Then we're going to get to Russia's chart, which is a little bit different. Interesting how all this stuff adds up. So we see that Neptune is hitting the Pluto. Pluto is going to start to square the ascendant. You see that he has a very low sense of self, a very unsteady emotional nature. He's very scorpionic from just these Venus rising and just Scorpio rising. Pluto is where? Okay. Pluto has just been at 26. Pluto's been 30 degrees away from Mars. During this attack, it's been 30 degrees away. That's called a semi-sextile. We don't talk about it much where a planet's 30 degrees away. It's another hard aspect. It's minor, but when it's exact, what do you think Pluto-Mars is? Attack, 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 especially in areas where you feel you've been screwed. You need to get something back to your country that's been taken from you. So it's a very intriguing chart. Mars is, let's see. So the big deal here on March 23rd, here we are, March 10th, 13 days from now, I've been telling you this for a few months. 13 days from now, Mars is going to be let's get this on here. I'm looking at so many things I can't even tell. Days. Okay, Mars is going to be and this is the story now. On the 21st, 23rd, let's go back to the natal chart. On the 23rd of this month, I'm getting it. On the 23rd of this month, Saturn is going to hit here. Okay, Saturn is going to cross here. Now, when Saturn crosses into your fourth house, I cannot tell you how critical this is. Saturn has returned when he was 58. Saturn has gone all this way. It's been in this third house for 2.5 years. On the 21st, in just a couple weeks, it's going to cross this line. And when it crosses that line, it's going to oppose Pluto. Okay? This is the story that we're all waiting for. We're waiting for the 21st of March. All right. When Saturn crosses your nadir, the bottom of your chart, which represents your family, what's common in an individual is you have to stop your job, quit your job, go back to California, sit with mom and dad, and nurse them through their golden years. You have to solve critical karmic debts. You don't have a choice. The other choice is you get no inheritance. But I've talked to so many people, when Saturn crosses the bottom of the chart, they have to go home and fix things. A lot of people do it fluidly, and a lot of people do it begrudgingly. But when Saturn hits the bottom of the chart, it is known as the end of the matter. When you're an astrologer, you have to get very used to watching Saturn. Saturn is a very big deal because it's a social planet and it really rules our daily life. And it's the one that gets us jobs and it gets us married and it gets us rent and it gets us loans, et cetera, et cetera. When Saturn crosses the bottom of the chart, that's the opposite of being at the top. When Saturn's at the top is when you're on top. So there are different meanings for you individually. There are different meanings for you academically, vocationally, etc. But in his case, Saturn's at the bottom. And what's he been doing? He's on a humongous maniacal ego trip because Pluto's sitting on top. And if you think Saturn is just going to cross that nadir by itself and doom, just pass it by here and not have any effect on Pluto sitting at the top, then you need a whole lot of astrology lessons. So Saturn's going to cross the bottom while Pluto's on the top, while this guy has got himself extended and he's got tons of troops stuck on the road, the world turning against him. And I'm not going to say he's going to be stopped at that time. There's a real good chance that he will be, because Saturn is like the voice of the people and doing what's right. It's kind of like that. Saturn's hard to predict too, just like all these suckers are. They're all hard to predict. There's a really good chance that Saturn is going to stop him in some case. It even might hurt him physically. Now, take a look at this. This is fascinating. When America was going through its Pluto return that you all warned about forever, and we go back several days ago, 27. Okay, right around there. Here's the Saturn return. Last month, February 20th, Pluto had gone all the way around 250 years. It was exactly lined up, even though it doesn't look lined up. 2733, 2733. Okay? That was the Pluto return. Look where Mars was. 2011. Mars was together with the Pluto return. You don't need that. You don't need people striking matches when somebody's parked a truck of dynamite next to your house. That's what Mars does. But look at Mars, 7 degrees away. So this is when the Saturn return is. The invasion takes place. 23rd. Anyhow, the point is that the invasion took place when Eris was squaring Mars, when Mars was squaring Eris. It wasn't when Mars hit the two Plutos. You had the two Plutos lined up, and Mars and Eris were squaring each other exactly when the invasion started. Here's the invasion. Stick with me. I know it's hard to do. This is the invasion at 5 o'clock in the morning on February 24th. So it's 4 days after the Pluto return. You think they didn't know that? These are the chess geniuses of the world. Okay. Look at how close Mars is to Pluto, 5 degrees away during the invasion. Okay. You've got Uranus squaring these planets also. So we're not going to get much into that chart. All right. We've got, okay. All right. The next chart we got to show, moving on so we don't get too bored, is Joseph Biden. Let's take a look at his chart. All right. Biden has a pretty good chart. It's got some trouble. I'll show you some things that may explain to you why he is the way he is. One of the reasons he stutters, and one of the reasons that he's kind of seemingly confused mentally, but he's really much sharper than you think, is because of the Sun-Venus opposite Uranus. Now, I'm born with this myself, with the Sun opposite Uranus right across the chart. This means he's really pretty bright, and he's very, very quick. But look at this. This is Mercury in Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio, Sun in Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio, all opposite Uranus and Saturn. Okay, so there are 12,000 planets, and I'm sure he's got a lot of secrets. But these planets are somebody who can handle pressure. He can handle pressure. And if you've got any doubts about him handling pressure, look at the T-square to Chiron and Leo. This is very powerful. And this means when push comes to shove, this man will do what he's got to do to protect our country. He will do what he's got to do to protect his family. This volatile Uranus, etc., in his chart is why he's had so many personal catastrophes. I don't know why astrology does that. It just does. He's got a pretty strong Neptune, being only 12 degrees or so from the midheaven. So he's got sensitivity. I think you can see that when he talks. He's trying to be sensitive to people. He's trying to be a good Democrat. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So in his chart, it's really a pretty decent chart, but this is the kind of guy who's got a moon in Taurus. It is 0 degrees. We got a birth time of 8:30. So we know his moon is in Taurus. So thank goodness this guy's got a moon in Taurus to put up with what I told you about in politics, because to handle a sun opposite Uranus is really not easy. It's just not. It's not just ping pong balls going back and forth. It's piles of ping pong balls going back and forth, which is you trying to listen to my show. I understand that. Okay, it's got a nice grand trine. Look how powerful this grand trine is. Sun, Venus, Eris, Pluto. Sun, Venus, Eris, Pluto. This guy's got the sun and Venus. You ask how anybody inherited this mess that Mr. Trump has left. This is why he's the right guy to handle it. I don't think he's going to run again. I think it's just too much. I do think his age is the issue, but he's very, very strong. He's got the Leo problems are going to come out. In other words, you're going to see some people talk and write books about him being too pro-Biden as he was president. But I'll sure take him over the last Gemini that we had. Let me move on because we got a lot to do. Russia's chart. Okay, here's that horror area of Christmas Day, 1991. Look at Russia's chart with the Venus, Pluto. They're a Capricorn country with a moon in Virgo. They got Venus and Pluto square the ascendant. So what do you think it is when Venus and Pluto in Scorpio square your Leo ascendant? Russia is not able to have equal relationships, even with their own people. This is wanting to be heavy-handed domination of everybody around them. This is very dangerous proposition here. I don't know where the poverty comes from, but it comes from way, way back in their old charts, I'm sure. Here we see a sun at 3 degrees Capricorn. Pluto, Venus, Eris. Okay, we do have a bucket here, of an entire bucket swinging from Eris in the 9th house. And I would think that what that means is they feel philosophically superior. Their system is just better. It's coming from their philosophy, and they're willing to fight for it. Now, I don't know where the symbol is for so much self-deception. How do they deceive their own people so much? You have to study the moon more for that. Okay, we talked about, let's go do Ukraine's chart. Here is the chart of Ukraine. All right. Ukraine has a pretty accurate birth time. They are a Virgo country, but look at their pride. Leo, Leo, Leo. Moon in Aquarius, very, very idealistic. Now, this country, in my opinion, does not have a chance in the long run. They may have a chance for the next while because they got a T-square to Pluto. How would you like to live in a country that has a T-squared to Pluto every time that Pluto gets hit? I think they've got a definite chance, and they can definitely be a model for the rest of us. And I don't know what's going to happen to them now, but this is what's going on now. You think the T-squared to Pluto doesn't symbolize what they're getting bombed? It's awful. Moon in Aquarius, they're very idealistic country. They're very noble with the 3 Leo planets, 5 planets in the 7th house, Chiron in Leo. This is a symbol, especially opposite Saturn. This is the main symbol in the chart. This means nobility, the idealism of Aquarius and the nobility of Leo. They're going to stand their ground against anybody. Now, if they continue, they're going to continue to have these fights with Pluto. And when you do astrology, charts will personify themselves. There will be times, if not permanently, that Pluto in their chart will be Russia. When that planet gets hit, Russia acts up. It's a personification of it because they're kind of a stepson to it. I mean, they're born of it. Very difficult chart. There's that pride. Very tough. T-squared to Pluto. They're not going to be knocked out easily. It is vicious. It is ultra sad. On April the 11th, Saturn will cross the moon. Saturn will be on this moon. This is the people. The moon in charts like this are the people. You don't want Saturn crossing your moon after going through what they're going through now. We can only hope and pray they're having a wonderful effect on the rest of the world, standing up with them. But we know for sure that around April 10th and 11th, it's going to be an extremely critical turning point when Saturn hits the moon. It's usually an addition of hardship. It can also be the world coming to their assistance. It can be. It can also be what's right in the world coming to help them. It doesn't have to be a gloomy result. When I have watched Saturn through the years, after reading so many nasty things about it, through 43 years or whatever, Saturn also has a really good side to it. Saturn is the one that says, hey, you've not been noticed, but you've been working your tail off. Let's call you up front. Let me give you an award. Saturn does that. It's little known because Saturn is so busy getting the bad rap, the great malefic in astrology. So what I've found with things like this, it'll probably be bad and good at the same time. Probably something really nasty will come down Ukraine's way at that time, but at the same time, some real good stuff happens. One of the things you got to remember here, Putin's not that strong. He's not strong as a person. He's very weak as a person. So how long can they prop him up? I don't know. It's tough. These are tough things. I didn't promise you a rose garden. I promised you I show you the charts. And they're sure not easy ones. They sure aren't. Okay. This is one everybody's been waiting for. A guy named Zelenskyy. I'm timing it out pretty well here at 9:17. Here's this phenomenal chart of this wonderful man, comedian named Zelenskyy. Now, you have to see right away, right across the ascendant, 3 major planets already. Jupiter, Neptune, Moon. Why? Because they're close to the angles. One angle, two angles, three angles, four. Jupiter, Neptune is someone who is very inspired spiritually. He is an Aquarian. And Aquarians, if you don't know this, and they usually lay low and not much is known about them, they're extremely idealistic people. They are fixed, which means you're going to stick with their friends. You don't mess with their home country. And when you have Jupiter, Neptune like this is not the conjunction. It's the opposition. It's not the square. Usually the opposition is problematic. Usually it's problematic, like somebody that goes away and joins a cult and you can't talk them out of it. But you do have elements of the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. And when you have Jupiter-Neptune combined, what you have is somebody who's spiritually inclined, spiritually devoted to his country. And I think it's real. So it's interesting to see how one chart has potential and it leans towards the nasty, and another chart has some ill potential and it leans towards the good. This is why you don't see many astrologers, because it drives you nuts trying to do it. Right, Liza? Right, she said. Okay, here is the friendliness of friends here, with the sun in Aquarius next to Venus, same degree. This is extremely friendly, and that's in his philosophy house. So I think it's a comedian too, but I think that's part of why he is so personable. People love him. And look at this. This is opposite Mars. So you've got the two, Venus and Mars, opposite each other, the two sensual planets, Venus and Mars. Get charisma is what that is. And the T-square goes to where? It goes to Chiron and Taurus. Well, if you ever try to play King of the Mountain with somebody with a strong Taurus planet, you're not going to get him off of it. You're going to have to kill him to get him off. Okay, he's fixed. He's dedicated. And Aquarius is about, I show you my loyalty. You have my loyalty. And Aquarian energy, in a lot of ways, it's more important to them to have a good friend than it is a deep lover. Friendship is everything to Aquarius. All right, now you've got a very strong Neptune in Sag. You think this guy's not fighting for a cause, standing up to the Soviets by himself? A moon in Leo wrapped around the pole that sticks in the earth. This is the homeland. This is his sense of home. The moon in Leo, Saturn in Leo, Neptune in Sag. You have Mr. Zelenskyy. A phenomenal chart. A phenomenal chart. Now look at what's in his other T-square. Unbelievable. He's got Pluto opposite Eris. Who in the world has any opposition that's more intense than that? The only thing it could be more intense is if they were at the same degree. They're 3 degrees off. Pluto, Eris, T-square to 1 degree away, Mercury in Capricorn. Whoo! You want to see a man with a rigid, fixed mind. He's got a T-square to Mercury in Capricorn, 1 degree off in the 8th house. So what you will find when you study somebody like Zelenskyy, if you really studied, you would see that his chart is the personification of what's happening to these people and the Russian people. And if you had all these charts and all these astrologers studying all these subsets, you would see that there's a flavor to being Russian. There's a flavor to being a satellite of Russia. And these people are saying it with their words, and they're the same words that match the archetypes that we're seeing. This guy is not just inspiring Ukraine, he's inspiring the world. He might even inspire the Russian people enough if they can get some TV pumped into them with honest news coming to them. The final thing I want to show you, it is kind of timed out pretty well, is the USA's chart. We told you guys this was all coming. We saw it coming. In the United States chart, we couldn't tell you exactly what it was, but we knew it was coming, and it's here, and it's going to be here for a long time. In the United States chart, the thing I want to show you is this. Yes, we got a Pluto going back and forth, and as it goes back and forth over the next at least 10 years, but it's going to really be strong 2 or 3 years, but its effect at least 10 years. As Pluto goes back and forth, we're going to be facing a lot of ugly things that we have done. We're facing a lot of abuse that we have done. We're also going to be getting rewarded for a lot of the powerful good things that we have done. Both things will happen. But while that's going on, we're digging deep to build new foundations. Don't be surprised if somebody has to take the Statue of Liberty down to fix the foundation and put it back on top of a new one. Don't be surprised. This is exactly how these things happen. Or they may have to work around the foundation, whatever. Literally. Now, the other thing that's happening, look at this. Neptune went around once. Now it's right here. Neptune is opposite Neptune. And if this chart is right, it's taking place in the 3rd house and the 9th house. Well, Neptune opposite Neptune is about a spiritual revelation, a spiritual coming to Jesus moment. But it's in the house of what do you believe? What do we teach? What do you believe? What's on your networks? What do we communicate? This is the houses of intelligentsia, communicating, talking, teaching, what's in your university, people wanting to burn books. So Neptune opposite Neptune is, on one hand, very likely being deceived. When Neptune's on you, it's real common. Someone's having an affair on you, somebody's cheating on you, you're being deceived, something. But what it really is a spiritual turning point. And I think you are seeing a lot of really good things happen in the country as far as a spiritual turning point. I wouldn't invest my money in churches in this country. I think that a lot of them are going to fall apart. They want to be replaced by ones that are more valid. So I'm going to wrap things up because this has been a very difficult evening for me. It's just very hard to do. I hope you have gained from watching these different pieces. But when Neptune is opposite Neptune for the country, I think is a really appropriate way to end the show. It means that although you may have found yourself failing spiritually, it is time to forgive it. It is time to learn from it. It is time to move forward from it. It is time to include. It is time to start to build this thing I'm always talking about. Start to build this thing that Jennifer Ivanko was talking to us about last week. The spiritual basis. Because if we don't build a spiritual basis and make that our mainstay as we rebuild the country, then there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. We see what happened to the GOP. They're gone. They're a memory. They're mist, a perverted cloud. And we don't want to fall that way. So the Neptune doesn't care. The Neptune is here to pump us up with good God stuff. It's here to pump us up with good God stuff. It's there. The energy's here. It's ripe. But when Neptune is opposite Neptune, you got to face the music and you got to spend some time in confession Oh boy, we knew this shit was coming. Linda, we knew this shit was coming and we kept telling you. And good luck to everybody because I know we got a lot of great people. I'm going to try to feed you a lot of good guests to help you learn about this and learn about that. A lot of people, you're welcome, Rachel. A lot of people really want to do something and they're not quite sure. They're not quite sure. And the next guests that I'm going to be bringing you aren't coming by happenstance. They're coming by him sending it to us. Him sending them to us. So bless everybody. Thank you so much for putting up for the very difficult show. Really is hard stuff. I tried not to be too prejudiced, but at the same time saying it like it is. I hope you learn from it. You get the charts, so hope you can learn some things from those. I'll see you next week. Peter, good to see you. Everybody.
Thank you so much, Rick.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you're
Rick.
all welcome. Trudy, good to see you. Hi, bye-bye to everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, YouTubers.
Shelby says bye.
Bye, Shelby.